Hello.
Hello, hello.
How you doing?
Slowly but surely.
Do you know what? I just realised. Look, I matched the colour at the top there.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, how exciting! Well, these little things. Right. So, hello, folks. There's a few of you that have arrived, which is nice. Let me just open up my comment section. So, would someone be kind enough just to let us know that you can hear us? Just a "I can hear you, Gigi" would be fine, but that way I know I'm not just wittering on into the void and no one can hear me other than Yevgeny, who hears me frequently, so has no need to hear me tonight. Come on, folks, somebody say something. Oh, okay.
Gigi's mom says
Yeah,
we're
my mum says she
audible.
can hear us. Hi, mum.
That's the most important thing then.
She loves me. What can I say? All right. So, should we do a little bit of an introduction and buy ourselves a few minutes because it takes folks a while to realize that we're live and then come on board. So, do you want to start, Yevgeny, and then I can just open up a couple of other bits?
Yeah, I'll start. So, folks, welcome to the weekly Amazon interview coaching show. So you probably know Gigi and myself because I'm assuming you came through our YouTube channel. But for those of you who don't know us, so we used to both work at Amazon. We were hiring managers, interviewers. We actually had jobs that we actually did. Both worked in marketing. Gigi was also a bar raiser on top of everything. And the way we started coaching and educating on Amazon interviews is slightly different. So I'll tell you my story, and then Gigi will tell you hers. So I what I started doing is after I noticed that plenty of folks would come to my interviews with great functional profiles, but they were pretty terrible at behavioral interviewing. What I would do is in the first phone screen, rather than rejecting them, I would actually offer them a little bit of coaching and see what happens. And I would progress them to the next stage, which would be the second phone screen, and then onwards to the loop. And anecdotally, they started doing much better after a little bit of coaching, which kind of proves the point that interview skills are coachable. You can actually learn how to do it. And so in my last two months at Amazon, I actually started coaching externally. Started doing it for free to anyone who needed it. I quickly ran out of time. Realized that maybe I should start charging a little bit of money for it. So that started. Then I ran out of time again. Then I started building courses so that folks who couldn't get a slot with me could actually learn how to prepare for behavioral interviews at Amazon. And then I got a client who said to me, actually, there's this Gigi, the Amazon interview whiz, who is also really, really credible in this area. And we should meet each other and get to know each other. And so I met Gigi and we got to know each other. And then we decided to merge our businesses. But I'm going to ask Gigi then now to go backwards, rewind, and tell us how she got into this amazing business.
Okay, so as Yevgeny said, I was a hiring manager, interviewer, and bar raiser at Amazon. And I also spotted something like Yevgeny, but a different thing, which was I spotted people doing weird things in my interviews, but they tended to do some of the same weird things, which was weird because weird things are weird, but consistent weird things is really weird. So I then started to ask people what had made them make that choice to make that answer structured that way or that particular strategy approach in the interview. And they pointed me towards YouTube and a couple of specific channels on YouTube. So I went and had a look and I was underwhelmed by what I saw on YouTube. And I was concerned that people were being misled unintentionally, but misled in terms of what they should expect and how they should prepare. So, me being the good Amazonian that I was at the time, I decided just to set up my own YouTube channel and share information that I knew would be accurate and usable for everybody. Amazon was really supportive of me at the time. They promoted my content internally. By the time my Amazon journey came to an end, I, like Yevgeny, thought, maybe I can make a little bit of a side hustle out of this. So I too set up my own Amazon coaching business. I wasn't doing one-to-one coaching. I created courses, and then the rest you heard in terms of how Yevgeny and I met each other. So As you know, this is Day One Careers. We have our incredibly extensive YouTube channel. We have a very extensive blog on our website, day1.careers, and we provide digital courses and one-to-one coaching for you Amazon hopefuls out there. Part of that is we do this weekly live session. So we're here every week at what is 6 p.m. our time, because we're both in the United Kingdom, and whatever the time is where you are. Who knows? But we do this every single week. The way this works is you have the opportunity to ask us any question that you like, but there are some parameters. So I'll run through those parameters very quickly. Parameter number one is if you just have a general, I have an interview coming up, have you got any tips type thing, then we're just going to point you to the YouTube channel, because we have hours and hours and hours of tips and it's all on the YouTube channel. And where would we start, quite frankly, if we answered that question here? So please don't ask us anything that's really generic. On the other end of the spectrum, there are, I think, over 10,000 job families in Amazon. So different skills areas, if you like, if job families doesn't make a lot of sense to you. And in those job families slash skills area, functional skills, experience, expectations exist for the role. We as individuals, in fact, no individuals could know in great depth exactly what functional skills are expected of every single job family and what they will ask you around those functional skills. So if your specific question is about, Gigi, what are they going to ask me functionally as a SDM, or what are they going to ask me functionally about a pre-construction engineer? Gigi, what they're going to ask me functionally about a BIE? I'm afraid we cannot answer those questions. No one individual possibly could. But anything in between is probably fair game. So what you need to do is there should be a little box, comment box on the right-hand side of your page. Drop your question in there. There are character limits. So if your question you think is quite long, if you run out of characters, just delete the last one and put a number 1 at the end of that, and then get going on the next box. And if you still haven't completed your question, put a 2 as the last character there, and then we will work out that it's a multi-parter and scan down to pull it all together. We will try and tell you if we can't answer your question, because we don't want to be rude and make you think that we're ignoring you. So we might just occasionally pull someone up and just say, this is your question, I'm sorry, we can't answer it, but we try to be polite. Okay, so I think that's all of the housekeeping. Have I missed anything?
No, I think we're good to go.
Okay. Oh, one thing, folks, stay until the end. We have amazing freebies to give you. The best freebies on Amazon interview prep on the internet or in the world, as far as I'm concerned anyway. So do hang out until the end and you can get access to those. So please do bang down some questions. We've got a couple that have appeared now. We'll go through those, but folks, please do ask questions or we'll just wrap up. We could potentially be here for an hour. I guess it runs for as long as you guys have got questions, or you people have questions, if I was going to be politically correct. All right, shoot. Do you want to pick the first one, Yevgeny?
Yeah, let's go for it. Okay, so hi, Gigi and Yevgeny. My loop is tomorrow. My question is about the interviewers. There will be no hiring manager in the loop, and also two of the interviewers. There will be no hiring manager again, and two interviewers are the same as the phone screen. Is it bad or good? Okay,
No,
so
no. There's a third part there, and none of them is said to be the bar raiser.
what level is this interview for? That's what I'm trying to understand, because I'll tell you. Okay, I'll tell you what the only thing that I can answer, and then I'll pass it on to Gigi to weigh in. So the fact that you've you've interviewed with two of them from your phone screens, I'm assuming phone screen 1 and 2, so that's fine. That's normal. I wouldn't worry about it. The fact that none of them was a bar raiser, and the fact that the hiring manager is not there, I don't know what to tell you. Gigi, Gigi, do you have any insights on this?
Well, I'm not clear whether the bar raiser is not there or if Leo has not been told who the bar raiser is. I think the language there is a little obtuse. So, Leo, have you not been told who the bar raiser is, or have you been told there is no bar raiser? I think that's an important point of qualification. So, just update us that in the comments section. As regards the hiring manager not being at the interview, um, Yeah, so you've not met the hiring manager yet then, because it said you've said two people are at the interview, you've been interviewed already, and then the hiring manager isn't in the loop. So it's very unusual. Um, okay, so you haven't been told who the bar raiser is. That's normal. Sorry, there's another point down there, Yevgeny.
Okay, so
Right?
okay, so
So it's
there
totally
will be a
normal.
bar raiser.
Yeah, that's totally normal that you wouldn't be told who the bar raiser is. That's normal practice. So let's knock that on its head. So then the fundamental question is, oh, wrong one. Sorry, I've done that one. Right. The fundamental question is, where's your hiring manager in all of this? You haven't met them yet in phone screen one or phone screen two, although it could possibly be phone screen one with a shadow, Yevgeny. We're not entirely clear on that either.
No.
But as yet, you have not met the hiring manager and you will not meet them in the loop. Yes, that is unusual, but not unheard of. So there are some roles that are so, I'll call them cookie cutter without meaning to be disrespectful in any way, but they're jobs that are just so similar that it doesn't matter what line manager you do them under, the role themselves is very replicatable. So these roles are often brand manager roles or like Amazon ads, account managers, those types of roles where hiring managers are so confident that their colleagues will understand what it takes to raise the bar in those roles. If they can't make it to the interview, they then comfortably delegate that to one of their peer group. So that is really the only circumstances where it's relatively normal for a hiring manager not to be in a loop and not to have met the candidate. There are other examples where a hiring manager might not be in the loop if they're off sick or if they've got annual leave, but those usually would have met the candidate at least once in the earlier rounds. So that's kind of all I can think of in terms of the context of your circumstances. All
Cool.
right, shall I pick the next one then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll go to Zaid, who I accidentally brought up earlier. Ha, okay. How should a candidate look at the bar raiser round? Is it just another round? Do they ask questions differently or do I answer them in a different way? Yeah, you look at it exactly the same way as you look at every other round. They don't ask any different types of questions. They don't ask questions differently. You don't have to approach the questions differently. You just approach it and they approach it as every other interview and every other interviewer would. So the best strategy is to pretty much treat every interviewer as if they were your bar raiser and bring your A game to every single one of your interviews, because whether they're the bar raiser or not, the bar raiser will eventually hear about that interview and that person's perspective on that interview. So either way, you need to impress the bar raiser at every single interview, whether they're present or not. Okay, do you want to try the next one, Yevgeny?
Yay. So I interviewed for L7 position last year, and it went really well with hiring manager and her boss, but they decided not to fill that position, so I didn't get to the loop. Now I have an L6 level position interview. They have my feedback, and the recruiter told me that the feedback was very good. And then, can I repeat stories I told last year? Also, this time I didn't have any phone screen from the recruiter. I will be talking to the hiring manager first interview next week. Um, so, well, it sounds like the reason why your process didn't go ahead last time is because the role disappeared. Um, so, unless there are any other inputs that you can tell us, I would say go ahead and use the stories from last year. Now, obviously, if you've done some really good stuff during the year between that interview and the interview that we're talking about right now, do make sure to include some fresh content. But otherwise, I don't have any red flags. Do you have any red flags,
No,
Gigi?
I would agree with you. Repeat the best ones and do bring in some fresh ones. Okay, I'll pull the next one. How do you find out what level non-tech role the job I'm interviewing for is? I apologize, it's covered in the past many times, but I can understand why you might not have found it. Right, so non-tech role. Okay, so Amazon does have a standard nomenclature. I always struggle with that word that defines what level roles are. So A something manager would be a level 5, sometimes a level 4. A senior something manager would be a level 6, and then a manager, yeah, manager something would be a level 7. Um, yeah, I've got that right. For some reason, that sounds weird in my head, but that's right.
Which
Senior
one? Which one?
marketing,
Which one? Which one?
senior marketing manager. Then it would be,
L6.
yeah, then be manager marketing, L7.
No, that would be manager marketing L6,
It's
principal marketing manager L7 IC, senior manager
senior manager. I knew
marketing
there was a word I knew there was a word
is.
missing. Senior manager.
Why do I have this drill in my head?
Yeah, no, no, no. I've never got that wrong before, but I had a bit of a mental blip there. So let's go back to the beginning. Something manager. So let's just use marketing. Marketing manager L5, senior marketing manager L6, senior manager marketing L7. Right. But having said all of that, plenty of teams, especially in AWS, are not using that nomenclature. So if you can see that type of pattern in your job title, then you can take it from what we've said is that will be correct. If that pattern doesn't exist in your job title, it makes it much, much harder. So sometimes you can go on the number of years of experience that they're looking for in the job description. Again, there's no hard and fast rules there either. It's a little bit finger in the air. So if I see something that's really only looking for +3 years, generally that's an L4. If I'm seeing +5 years, generally I'd say that's an L5. If you're seeing anything somewhere between 5 and 8, that would be an L6. And then anything kind of 8 to 10 to 15 would be an L7. But that's very broad brush. It doesn't mean to say that's accurate. And equally, there are many countries, particularly in Europe, where you cannot use that type of information in a job description because it's age discriminatory. So you may not even have that information in your job description. So there's no hard and fast, surefire way to know unless your job title does follow that original nomenclature that I was telling you about. Okay, do you want to pick the next one?
Mm-hmm. Hi everyone, I have the Technical Professional Services internship interview tomorrow and the behavioral loop on Wednesday. Please give advice as to technical prep type questions. Lundi, unfortunately, we're not experts in technical preparation. I would, so we, and the reason why is because there's just way too many technical job families at Amazon, and we could not possibly be experts in all of them. However, the behavioral part is the one that is the same across all of them. While it's not an endorsement from me personally, right, or from Day One Careers, but some of our clients did use the job test prep site for some preparation and some technical and non-technical preparation. So do check it out. But otherwise, unfortunately, I don't really have anything to advise. Gigi, do you have anything?
No, there's the broader point. There's tens of thousands of job families. We just can't be expert enough to know the functional questions that you'll face, I'm afraid. And I wouldn't
Should I
know
take another one?
specifically. Yes, you can't cheat.
Okay. Hey, Tuche. Tuche, welcome back. We do remember you from previous sessions. So this week I'm awaiting the loop interview schedule with 5 interviewers. It sounds like you passed the phone interview and they shared writing assessment with you. Okay. I have questions for writing assessment in the loop. Can we use bullet points or tables? I would recommend to not use bullet points or tables, but rather to use a connected narrative, just to showcase that you can actually write out a story. But otherwise, I wouldn't use bullet points and tables. Would you disagree, Gigi?
No, don't
About
disagree.
this?
The only time ever you really see tables is in kind of QBRs and financial reporting, when it's PRFAQs and those types of things. No tables.
Hmm. Indeed. Do we need to mention as heading situation, task, action, and result? If that helps you, you can. So yeah, I mean, whatever helps you maintain the structure. You don't have to. You don't need to. You can delete them or not, as long as your story flows nicely. Do you agree?
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Then to highlight that we use the star method. The star method technically isn't it, isn't there's no hard and fast requirement. The star method is just a storytelling framework. Feel free to use whatever storytelling framework that helps you keep yourself on track, not on track, structured in terms of your story. Do we need to speak about our strengths and other stuff, or just focus on question and answer? So I'm assuming this is already for the loop, so we're done with the writing exercise. Um, so just focus on answering the question to the best of your ability, and let your strengths, specifically your behaviors that are hopefully responding to what the question is looking for, let them shine naturally through the work that you have done. That would be my guidance. Or I don't know if was this about the writing exercise? I don't know,
Could
because
be.
right
So
now
if it's about the writing exercise, just answer the question.
just answer the
It's true of
question.
both things,
Well,
both
there
for
you go.
writing exercise and in the interview. Just answer the question.
And then for the loop specifically, do you have any recommendations to memorize the stories during the interview? I would memorize them before the interview, and the way to memorize them is to practice, 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 and avoid cramming all the practice the day before, because the way to memorize stuff is to practice, so to do the drill, and then sleep, and then repeat, do some practice, and then sleep. When you sleep, your memories solidify. It's Google it. It's proven by science. So do that. And do you have any recommendations? I have more questions. I think we're done for now. Do you have
Okay, so
anything else to add, or
yeah,
do
I
you want
just
to
want to
close?
add something around memorizing. The whole point of memorizing is not necessarily so that you can repeat it like a script, or at least you need to be able to be flexible enough that if the question that you're asked doesn't exactly follow to use the script that you've memorized, that you understand the points of your story well enough that you can on the fly drop some and enhance others. So, yes, by all means, memorize, but it's not memorize so you can read a script, but rather memorize so you know the key points of your story that you want to tell, which will allow you to be a bit dynamic. People get into trouble when they assume that they will always be able to just repeat word for word a script that they have created. When we say memorize, we don't necessarily mean memorize the script, but memorize the key points within the script. Hope that makes sense. Okay, I'll pick one then. I recently interviewed for an SDE1-NG bracket can. Okay, that's a new one to me. And I believe I did well. Bar raiser L7 seemed satisfied and said it was fantastic talking to you. How much weightage do they have in the decision making? Okay, so I'm going to break that down into two parts. So, how much weightage do they have in the decision making? 100%. That's not to say that they're the only person that makes a decision, but rather that if they do not agree to hire you, you will not get hired. How much does, therefore, how much does their opinion weigh? It's a different question, because the bar raiser's job is to listen to everybody's feedback. So on many occasions, bar raisers will go into a debrief with one point of view and then end the debrief with a completely different point of view. So although, yes, obviously, if your bar raiser feels positively about you when coming out of your interview, it is a good thing. But that doesn't mean to say that they will end up at the end of the whole process being inclined to hire you. So that's one point. The other thing is, fantastic talking to you is, it's a little bit of hyperbole, right? The Amazonians are really not supposed to provide any kind of indicator as to how they feel about your performance. So I would always end my interview saying, it was really lovely to meet you. It was great to talk to you. That doesn't necessarily mean that I believed that the responses that you gave me were fantastic, right? And even if an interviewer does say to you, that was a great response, thank you very much, it still doesn't necessarily mean that at the end of everything, they're going to be inclined for you because of the reasons I just shared. They're going to end up being exposed to everybody else's feedback. So, my advice to you, Karan, is not to read between the lines, not to try to read between the lines. You've done your interview, fingers crossed, you did everything you could, and now it's just going to be a case of waiting to hear the outcome. But I do advise everybody, try not to read between the lines. It can be very, very misleading, and some interviewers just don't have control of what they say or don't realize the implications of what they're saying and how candidates might mistake it. So that's that.
Cool.
Do you want to do? I think there's another one from Touche there.
Yep. So she says she prepared a matrix of stories, but not sure if it's okay to use. So yes, you can use notes um, to help as a memory aid to help you recall the stories. If you prepare those notes as a matrix, that's fine. Plenty of folks use all sorts of ways to prepare notes. We have folks who like to use post-it notes, online tools. Some of them use our products, and we give it a whole database for you to store your stories that we call the AI story bank. But literally, use whatever method that you want. The only thing is just avoid reading from a script. Use the notes to aid the recall of your stories. So, but expect to be flexible because you're gonna have plenty of interviewers who will start asking you questions as soon as you start telling your story. And if you have a script, it's going to be very difficult. Also, if as an interviewer, if you hear someone reading from a script, it does sound a bit annoying to some interviewers. But anyway, use the matrix. That's fine. And then the other question is the bar raiser mentioned on the interview schedule, or this is incognito interviewer? So I mean, gosh, to what degree there will be incognito? So, um, when I was interviewing with Amazon, they gave me the list of all the interviewers, and they gave me their titles, and they gave me a short write up about their previous career and their MBA degrees and all that. But none of that said to me who's the bar raiser, and typically they were not going to tell you who's the bar raiser. So you will have the name listed in the list of interviewers for sure if they give you that list, and in a lot of cases they will give you that list, but they're not going to tell you who the bar raiser is. Anything you would add, Gigi?
You got more info than I did. I think I got people's names, and that was it.
Oh, they made sure to tell me every single one of them was either a Wharton, INSEAD, or IIM
Really?
MBA.
I just got people's names. And then I did get HM written next to the hiring manager, but everybody else, I had no idea who they were, which was good because it burnt some time at the beginning of the interview where they had to explain to me what they did. Right. Okay. So, Richard, just because you're here, this amused me when I read it. So we're all about the transparency. So Richard joined in Luxembourg during COVID. You hated it and you left after 2 years, but you still use the learnings from our training. Well, Richard, I'm delighted that the training you took from us has definitely helped you and is able to translate into other job interviews. I am wondering, Richard, what are you doing here? What are you doing? If you've got anything else to do on a Monday morning, lunchtime, evening, whatever it is. But we are obviously delighted to see you and very, very pleased that our training still has use for you even outside Amazon. So good on you. And I hope you found yourself a happy home.
That
People are
was fun.
brilliant. Love people. Right. Oh, touche again. All right. This is what it's for, folks. I mean, anybody that's got a question, just get it out there, right? We are very happy to answer multiple questions from one person. So you're having a look with 5 people across 2 consecutive days. Oh, which one is better? Fine. Okay. It doesn't matter to share. It's just about what works best for you. So I know Yevgeny and I would make different choices. So I would definitely do it in a single day because I am an in the zone person. And once I'm in the zone, I'm kind of pumping with my adrenaline. So that would be my choice. But I'm pretty sure I'm an extreme extrovert, by the way. I would imagine, and Yevgeny, tell me if I'm wrong, that he would probably choose to do it across 2 days because of, oh, did I just thumbs down myself?
No, you did
Whoops.
not. It's just it's just being weird.
Yeah, I suspect Yevgeny would choose to do it across 2 days because he would have an energy burnout and he would want to be able to get all his ducks back in a row and re-enter refreshed for the next day. So it's really all about what, mind you, I've just spoken over you. Would your choice be to do it across 2 days, Yevgeny? Do I know you well enough?
It would be. I never got one, so
Well, yeah.
I had to power through. And
Yeah,
by the last one, I was already. You know what? I couldn't care less if they gave me the job or not. I just want to go home.
just want to go. Oh, it's funny. So yes, you have to decide what works best for you. There is no one that is better for Amazonians, and I have no data, and I would suspect no one has any data in terms of success outcomes across 1 day or two, because if they did, they'd have picked it, and Amazon would have decided everyone's going to do it on the model that has the best outcomes. And the fact that they haven't done that suggests to me that there is no statistically significant data suggest one or the other is better. All right, do you want to pick the next one?
Yes, but the next
Oh, I
one.
think this is a
So have you
two-part.
done all the Karen ones?
I well, kind of. I think some of this is. I think there's a bit of a misnomer that we need to correct here. So number two is kind of just ongoing stuff, but number three, I think, has is a kind of a misnomer that we probably need to
I
make sure everybody
just
understands.
Okay, so I'm just wondering how the debrief works. For the bar raiser weighs in only when the other two people disagree, or when the bar raiser wants to veto or annul. In my experience, the bar raiser leads the debrief, participates in all the discussions equally, challenges people on. I mean, I've had some very interesting conversations where one of my interviewers, for example, showed up without the notes and wasn't particularly it wasn't giving a decent, well thought through feedback about the candidate, and the bar raiser spotted that and immediately asked the individual to show the notes, and the individual didn't have the notes, and so their feedback was disqualified. No, bar raiser has a very wide role to play, or at least in all of the loops that I've attended, and has multiple functions attached to them, in addition to then obviously having a vote, and their vote tends to be the one with the veto. But Gigi, please feel free to correct me.
No, you're absolutely right. I would say the bar raiser is the most active person in the room in a debrief. So they will, ahead of they have so many roles, it's crazy. So ahead of the actual interviews, the bar raiser will look at the interview panel and make sure that they're happy with the construct of the panel. Is there enough representation in terms of kind of gender mix, in terms of kind of level mix, in terms of kind of skill set mix? They will then obviously do the interview, and then when the interviews are done, they'll read everybody's notes. They'll provide feedback to people if they see that their notes aren't good enough ahead of the debrief. Ahead of the debrief, they will plan how they want to run the debrief, in what order they want to do which leadership principles. In the actual debrief itself, they will facilitate, guide the actual conversation. To Yevgeny's point, they will challenge people's assumptions. They will connect two different people and ask them to discuss their different points of view. It is a very, very active role. So no, I'm not quite sure where you heard that, but absolutely not. Your bar raiser is the most active person in the whole process, I would say.
Can I
Okay.
check the next one? I think there's a
Yes, I
continuation.
will. Oh yeah, this is a quick one. Is it good idea to follow up your interviewers on LinkedIn? Is it creepy? I don't think so. I think you can just reach out and say it was great to meet you, and hopefully I'll get to work with you. that's fine. Don't prod and poke them for any additional information about how they did. And certainly don't try and shoehorn in anything that you think you didn't get to say in the interview that you'd like them to know, because they would never be able to use that data for the decision anyway. But there's nothing wrong with, it was great to meet you. Hope I get to work with you. But even if I don't, I'd love to build you into my network, and ask them to connect. Okay, shall I do the next one?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, Pam. Oh, we are over time. So, okay. I'll do this one and then we'll do the entertainment. My loop interview is in 2 weeks. Okay, good. You've got lots of time to prepare, and it's for a junior position. Is it possible that they're still interviewing other candidates and may have already chosen someone before your interview? Oh, so that's one of two. Okay, let's see if I can find the second one. Oh, I've scrolled all the way down, Pam, and I can't see this. Oh, there it is. Could they cancel my interview or reject me immediately after the interview? Okay, so yes, they will probably be interviewing other people in the run up to your loop in 2 weeks' time. Is it possible that they could choose someone before you get to interview? Yes, that is absolutely possible. That is the nature of the process. It's a first past the post process. So the first person they consider to be raising the bar that they find, they will make the offer to. That person can then reject the offer, and if they reject the offer, they will continue to interview other candidates. If that person accepts the offer, then they will call a halt to the whole thing, and the job will be filled and closed down, and there will be no more interviews. So yes, it is possible that they can cancel your interview. Or yes, it is also possible that if you have just had your interview, but the day before or the same day that you had your interview, someone else was given and accepted an offer, it is possible that immediately after that they would come to you and say, look, I'm sorry, there is no role. If they come to you and say there is no role, but actually we really liked you and we felt you raised the bar, what they might do is suggest that they will try and find another role for you within the organization. If that happens, don't rest on your laurels. Go out there and actually make applications directly yourself for other roles, and then you can let that recruiter know what you've applied for. Is never a good idea to just rely on a recruiter to find you an alternative role, because they probably won't put their heart and soul into it, because they would not be responsible for that role. Would you like to pick the next one?
I would, but don't we need to do the entertainment?
Oh, the entertainment. Sorry, I totally forgot about that. Thank you. Yes, thank you for the reminder. Okay, folks, so we're just going to pause very, very momentarily here and ask you for the smallest favor anybody's ever asked you for in your entire life, which is, we obviously put a massive amount of effort into this channel. You can see hours and hours and hours of content. There's hours and hours of content on our blog. There's obviously this that we do every single week, come rain nor shine. But in return, we ask you very little. In fact, so far, we've asked nothing of you. So we're going to ask you a tiny favor, which is, whenever you do watch our content or come to one of our lives, please, please just give it a like, give it a thumbs up, or put a comment under the video that you've just watched. The reason why that's so helpful to us is it tells the algorithm that it's doing the right thing. It tells the algorithm that it has surfaced the content to the right person, and that that person liked that content. What that then does is effectively boosts day one career in the algorithm up into the rankings, so that people like you can more quickly find access to this type of very reliable, very authentic, very real and actionable content, as opposed to some of the other not so real, actionable, high quality content that you all know exists here on YouTube. So very, very briefly, we're just going to take a pause, and I'm going to ask you if you could please give this particular stream a like, a thumbs up. On my screen here, I can see how many likes we have so far in the stream. So I'll be very, very personally offended if that number doesn't go up. And whilst you do that, we're going to play you a little musical interlude. It might be a little loud, so if you have headphones on like me, I would suggest you kind of push them ever so slightly behind your ears there, like I'm going to do at the moment. And whilst this is playing, you please do like the stream. Give us a like. Oh, someone's just done one. Thank you. Here we go. It's only a few seconds. Let's go.
Like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, I like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, like the stream now, like the stream now.
There we go, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. That's one of my mum's favorites, although she did notice the first time I played it that the actual people doing the dancing that have my head on them are men. Which always makes me laugh when I look at it. So I should do a Yevgeny version one day, and then it might not look so weird. But thank you very much, and please do give us a like. We would be very, very grateful. All right, do you want to pick the next one then, Yevgeny?
Yeah, I'll pick the next one. If you start with L4, what highest level can you be able to move? Technical role. I think this is how long is a piece of string? To be honest,
Yeah,
that's
there are no limits.
there are no limits. There are no limits. There's it really depends. There will be folks who will move very, very far, and will be folks who won't. And it's all a combination of your merit and luck in various different proportions. So focus on the inputs and allow the output to come. I should probably pick another one, shouldn't I?
Mm-hmm. That was a cop out.
Yeah. Hi, I'm a technical consultant at Adobe with over 3.5 years of experience, primarily focused on coding. I would like to know how I stand as an applicant for an L4 role at Amazon. Do you have a suggestion? I have no idea how you stand.
No, we're not recruiters, and we don't recruit for technical consultants at
So
Amazon.
no, and your tenure, so 3.5 years of experience in some locations, that sounds about the right ballpark, but then, to be honest, these days it's a very poor predictor and poor indicator.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not
your
really the length of experience you have isn't really an indicator of how well someone's going to match you to a role. It's much more about what your resume says you've delivered in that particular role. So some people can achieve in a year what other people take 3.5 years to deliver. So it's much more about that. So I think the best thing that you can do is go and find an L4. And bearing in mind, we haven't even referenced here specifically what L4 role you're talking about. There are L4 roles in brand all the way to L4 roles in account management. It could be anything. So you just need to go and look at a job description and look at your resume and see a job description for a type of role you want and look at your resume and see how well you match up in terms of that job description. Right.
I think it's definitely your turn.
Yeah. I was just going to pick it. Right. What would you suggest to make sure that one is well prepared for follow-up questions for each LP? Yeah. So it's a good question, Shreya, actually. And I think we cover it off in our course in more detail. But the reality is you can't really prepare for follow-up questions because follow-up questions are not, there's no codification behind follow-up questions. Follow-up questions are going to form either questions to try and draw out more information from you that the interviewer thinks is missing. It's going to be follow-up questions that to clarify something that you've said because they've misunderstood it. It might be follow-up questions because the interviewer has got curious about something you said and wants to pursue it further. It could be any of those because it's basically driven by the curiosity of the interviewer in the context of either the leadership principle that they're trying to get data on or the technical side of things that they're interested in. So you can't predict what you're going to get in terms of follow-up questions. The only thing that I think is perhaps worth doing is trying to imagine if you were the interviewer, what follow-up questions would you ask? But that doesn't necessarily mean those are going to be the follow-up questions that someone else is going to ask. So really the only way to prepare for follow-up questions is to know your story, to it to be a true and authentic story so that you're not caught out if someone asks a follow-up question and actually you don't have the answer because it's not a real story. That's a problem. But really the only way to do it is to make sure that you really have thought in great detail about that story and you've covered off all of the angles and all of the memory that exists for that particular story. That's it. And then, sorry, to make sure you, right, that's it. Second part is the same. Okay.
Cool.
Do you want
Next
to
one.
have an
Yeah.
F's?
Okay. Hi, Gigi and Yvghini. Thank you for doing this. Can we expect technical functional questions in phone screen interview other than behavioral questions? And also, do we need to prepare with resume questions? So, on resume questions, yes, it's a very standard question. Walk me through your resume or tell me about yourself, which are just different versions of permutations of the same question. So, know your resume, be able to speak to the projects that you have completed, skills you've demonstrated, results you have achieved. Anything on your resume in any job interview, not just at Amazon, is full fair game. In terms of technical or functional questions, I have had candidates who did have functional questions in phone screens, functional questions in loop, mixed in one, not the other. So just be always prepared to answer functional questions. Anything you'd add, Gigi?
No, nothing to add. Okay, would it be a good look if I tell the technical interviewer for the internship loop to rather go to my GitHub so I can walk them through my projects? Um, my my gut says probably not. Usually, from a technical interview point of view, they're going to be asking you questions to test your knowledge. The technical interview is very rarely show me the projects that you've done. They will challenge your knowledge and ask you to, okay, this is a particular scenario. How would you deal with this? What questions would you be asking, etc., etc. Um, if there is a walk me through your resume type question, which at Loop possibly, you might try that to use that as an opportunity to say, okay, as you're walking them through your resume, do you want to have a look at my GitHub? I suspect the answer would be no, because they probably just don't have the time to go into the depth of your GitHub. But you can certainly offer it if they start the the talk me through your resume type question. But I suspect for the actual technical interview part of the process, they will be asking you hypothetical questions about made up scenarios rather than testing your technical fit by looking at your current work. Would you agree, Yevgeny? Any other thoughts?
No, no, that's I mean, I've never heard of technical interviews where you'd have to walk anyone through your GitHub. It's usually the
GitHub?
quick
No,
question
neither
answer
have I.
process. Okay. So here I have a similar question to Tuche. Um, I am given the option of virtual versus in-person interview for the loop. Which one is better? If virtual, I will take advantage of the notes to refer to. But who's stopping you from referring to your notes in the personal interview? Just have a nice little notebook with you, with the key points and key data. And I had a notebook with me, and I just said, I'll just quickly consult my notes if you don't mind. And I consulted my notes and told the story. As long as you don't sit with a notebook and read out from it
Mm.
completely, just no one's gonna say. No one. I don't think people will have a problem with you having notes. That being said, it's a personal preference. My preference have always been, as much as as much as I'm an introvert, actually I tend to be really good in kind of in-person one-on-one interviews as opposed to one-to-many. So I always jumped at an opportunity to actually meet someone in person. And I personally believe there's something special in just sharing the same space with another human being. And there are some benefits to that perhaps may not be captured by Amazon's interview rigidity. But that's my personal opinion, and you may disagree. At the end of the day, um, I think is it a factor that is, let's say, like what weight does that factor have? Even if doing this personally is better, I don't think it's even 10% or 20%, because at the end of the day, if you interview clearly, if they take good notes, they go to the debrief, and they'll be able to discuss your performance, then it's more the what you share versus the how you share. But it's up to you. If you like the idea of having a personal contact and connection with someone during an interview, then I would pick the one in person. Don't worry about the notes. What would you say? What's your preference, Gigi?
That's a good point. If I was given the choice now, what would I do? I would probably do it in person myself, because like you, I feed off other people's energy when it comes to being in a room with people. So I would definitely do it face to face. You are right in terms of have a notebook. I interviewed many people, as we well know, and plenty of them, and the majority of my interviewing happened before COVID, so most of it would have been face to face, and many people brought in notebooks. So as long as it's well organized and you're not kind of rustling through different pages trying to desperately find your reference point, then it's absolutely fine to bring notes physically in. Okay. Leo, if I receive a proposal and asks for an increase, how long it normally takes to get the outcome? Right, okay. Ping. Right. So you're talking about negotiation after someone has made you an offer. Okay. So I'll rephrase this slightly. If someone gives you an offer and you have made a counter offer, how long does it normally take to get the outcome? And is there a risk of losing the original offer? Okay. So there is no standard amount of time that it takes to get the outcome. I don't believe there's a specific SLA on that. So it can be days and it could be a week if it's particularly gnarly in terms of trying to get that counter that you've made approved by senior leadership. It can take 2 weeks. So there is no standard timeline. Is there a risk of losing the original offer? No. I've never, ever heard of Amazon withdrawing an offer based on someone making a counter proposal. As long as you respect it, when the recruiter says this really is our best and final offer, as long as you can respect the fact that at that point you probably need to stop trying to push, then you'll be absolutely fine. But I've never heard of Amazon withdrawing an offer because a candidate proposed a counter.
Cool.
Okay, do you want to pick the
Keep
next one?
going. Yeah. If you miss one of the loop, does the interview still continue? If by messing up you mean you did not particularly interview well, yes, the whole interview is gonna go all together until the end, because again, the decision is made. The decision on whether to offer you the job and the hiring vote, iron or hire vote, is taken at the debrief after everyone managed to interview you, enter their notes into the system, evaluate your response, graded, and come ready to the debrief to discuss their vote. So unless something absolutely unusually horrible happens in the interview, you're gonna get all your interviews in the loop.
Yeah, and it's an important point to make that interviewers aren't allowed to speak to each other whilst they have not yet interviewed you. So if Yevgeny interviewed you before me, Yevgeny is not allowed to come and talk to me about that interview until I've interviewed you and put my notes and placed my initial vote on the system. That's intended to stop unintended bias flowing through the chain of interviewers. So no one other than the interviewer that you just spoke to would have any inkling that the interview went good, bad, or indifferent. So hence the whole chain has to get completed before then you move on to debrief. Okay. Oh, hi, Petty. How you doing? So you almost missed the event. Whew. Close one, Petty. Your phone screen's been rescheduled twice. Oh, how annoying. So you'll be doing it this Thursday. How many hygiene questions do I get and how many behavioral questions? Okay, so hygiene questions wise, probably somewhere between 2 and 3. So there'll be the probably tell me about yourself, why Amazon. Some people will ask you to walk me through your resume, some won't. So probably between 1 and 3. In terms of how many behavioral questions, that is a how long is a piece of string question, because the number of behavioral questions that you get is going to be determined by a couple of different variables. One of those variables is how long your actual stories are, because that's obviously going to eat into time, and therefore you will be driving the time limitations. The other variable is the ambition of your interviewer. Some interviewers have a very clear ambition to hit a number of questions. Other interviewers are quite happy to just kind of go along with your pace and aren't particularly focused on hitting a particular number. So it can be anything between, I've seen interviewers, not me by the way, who have only done one question on an entire interview. Wasn't crazy about that as a bar raiser, but nonetheless. And equally, I've seen interviewers get all the way up to 8 questions in an interview because the candidates' answers have just been so short, and therefore they've had to fill the time with asking other questions. So there is no definitive answer on that one, I'm afraid, Petty.
Cool.
Do you want to pick the
All
next
right.
one? We've got another 5 minutes. I'm not sure how many questions are still there, so we might get through most of them in 5 minutes.
Maybe if we try to go quickly.
Go quick, yeah.
How many days do you get a reply after OA? I have no idea. Do you know?
Nope.
Let's keep going. I applied for a marketing research manager position, non-tech. I was invited to take an online assessment. After that, recruiter sent me a screening questionnaire. The screening questionnaire asked about what I'd done, my work experience, scopes. And now I'm waiting for the phone interview to be scheduled. Recruiter said it would be about the screening questionnaire and maybe one behavioral question. How would you advise me to prepare for this? So they gave you away half of your interview, essentially. It's the screening questionnaire. So just be prepared to speak to, and go into more detail on any of the questions that they had in the screening questionnaire. Prepare to answer why Amazon, tell me about yourself questions. And then for the one behavioral question, this is where it becomes a little bit tricky because there are 16 leadership principles. Of these 16 leadership principles, it's incredibly unlikely they're going to be interviewing you in all 16. If it is, your marketing research manager, that sounds like an L5 role. L4 and L5, it's hard to tell from this
I'd
title.
say
But
L5.
okay, let's say it's L5. So they're going to interview you on 8 to 10 leadership principles. But
It says she's only going to get one behavioral question.
During the phone screen, you're going to get one behavioral question.
Yeah, that's what it
It's a
says
phone
there.
screen. Yeah. So which one of those 10 you're going to be interviewed on? We don't know. So unfortunately, the only way for you to do to prepare for that one is to scan the job description, try to figure out what leadership principle seems to be the most dominant, and prepare for that one. Gigi runs a great service where she can do it for you. She'll look at the job description and try to identify the most commonly appearing leadership principles that are kind of keyworded and baked into the job description. But unfortunately, even amongst those, it's hard to predict which one will be the one that the hiring manager will pick for that interview. Anything you'd add?
Maybe ask the recruiter. They might be kind enough to tell you. You never know. Worth asking. Okay, so Jay, is it fine to repeat a story in the same loop from different interviewers if they're asking similar questions, or should one aim to keep coming up with new stories? Okay, so okay, 2 parts to this. Is it okay to repeat the same scenario with 2 different interviewers if that scenario fits those 2 different questions? Yes, it is. Only caveat there is you would want to be positioning that story from that scenario in very different ways in those 2 questions. And by that, I mean, you don't want to use the same story if the questions are similar. You want to use the same story if the questions are different. So if someone asks you a question about a time where you had to dig deep into lots of layers of information and you used a particular story, and then if someone asked you, tell me about a time where you went above and beyond for a customer, one is about customer obsession. The other one is about dive deep and data analysis. So you can use the same story, but focus on very different aspects of the story. One is the aspect where you take them through all of the analysis that you did and step by step how you did that analysis. And the other story is purely about the customer and what you were trying to do and how you helped the customer and your interactions with the customer. What you don't want to do is hear two questions that sound very similar and use exactly the same story, because chances are you won't be hitting the right point. So for example, there's a question about, I think it's like, tell me about a time when you thought you weren't going to meet a commitment. There's another question, I think, that's about actually not meeting the commitment. There's another question about, anyway, they're across different leadership principles and the questions sound exactly the same, but they're actually intended for very different leadership principles. So if that happened to you, you'd use exactly the same story for two completely different leadership principles, but you wouldn't be leaning into those leadership principles. So repeat story, yes, but repeat story for very different questions. If the questions sound the same, find a different story. Would you agree, Yvghini?
Yeah, totally agree.
All right.
Right.
Okay.
Should we do the
Oh, is it time
freebies?
now? Gosh, we didn't get through them. Okay, cool. So, folks, let's just give you our freebies and then I can just tell you what to do with your leftover questions. So, if you put the banner up. Okay. So, folks, there at the end of this link, there are 3 things that are incredible and you don't want to miss out on them. The first thing is a free sample of our Amazon Interview Success System course, which is our flagship course to prepare you for your Amazon interview. It's just a little section of it. It focuses on customer obsession and it takes you through the different we call them facets, that's just our language, but it takes you through the different ways in to customer obsession, which will help you identify the right type of story to bring to your customer obsession questions. It will also then tell you what the interviewer is looking to hear from your story, so you can then look at that and really build out what your story needs to contain. And then it has a little mock interview of me interviewing me, so you can kind of see how it works in real life. So that's one thing that you'll get free. The next thing you will get free is you will have access to what we call the Day One Careers Plausible Interview Question Bank. It is not the actual Amazon interview question bank. We don't have it and we couldn't share it with you even if we did. But because of our very, very deep knowledge of what Amazonians tend to ask and are looking for in the interview, we have come up with our own plausible questions, which you can use for practice. Do not build exact answers off those questions because they will not come up in the actual interview itself. But they're very helpful to practice. How would I answer if I got this question? Particularly because Amazonians don't have to use the exact wording on the Amazon interview question bank. So you are very likely to have someone make up a question on the spot anyway. The third thing that if you take out either of those, you get access to is our Heartbeat community. On our Heartbeat community, there is in excess of 6,000 people who have either previously or are currently interviewing at Amazon. There is a channel there where you can reach out and ask people if they want to do mock interviews with you, and you can meet up with them and do mock interviews. There is also an amazing channel there, which is a custom ChatGPT AI bot thing. We call him Andy. And Andy has been trained on all of the content on the YouTube channel. So if you have a question and you don't want to spend time trawling through our very extensive YouTube channel, you can just go there and ask Andy and he will answer the question for you if the information exists in the YouTube channel. And that's about it, folks. So thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate your attendance. I think we had a great group join us today. If we didn't get to answer your question today, do feel free to take that question and just copy and paste it into any of the comment boxes underneath any of the videos on the YouTube channel, and we will respond to you via that channel. And don't forget, if you do continue to use the content, please do just give it a little bit of a like. Hopefully it's not too much of an effort on the end of watching a piece of content. If you have your interview coming up, we have our fingers very, very tightly crossed for you. And if you're a couple of weeks away, then we hope to see you next week. Thanks, folks. Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you, Penny. Bye.